Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's installation in our Veritas seminar series. This week we're very lucky to have the Reverend Dr. John Fleming talking to us about the very pertinent and slightly controversial topic of can Anglicans be Catholic? Reverend Fleming is very qualified to talk to us in this area. In 1970 he was ordained an Anglican priest. In 1987 he converted to Catholicism, and in 1995 was ordained a Catholic priest. He is also married with 3 children and is one of the founding president of Campion College, and also has a PhD in bioethics from Griffith University, and has a book which is about to be launched called Convinced by the Truth. So please welcome.
Well, thank you. The book contains what I'm about to say today and a whole lot more. This is just a flavour, if you like, of a book that I know you want to buy. Anglicans and Catholicism. Well, the truth is that since the Reformation, Anglicans have always seen themselves as Catholic. You must understand that the English Reformation was peculiar. It was essentially about the rise of nationalism, desire of a king to have control over the church, and that also conveniently meant the possibility of getting a divorce that he wanted. But it's about the nationalisation of religion, the takeover of the church by the state. That coincided with the Protestant insurgency coming from the continent. And so what you see built up in England over the period of time from Henry VIII onwards, reaching its apogee in a way with the Spanish Armada, the English finally decisively turn against the Rome and the Pope, the Spanish and the Catholic Church, and you get the cry of no popery. The Church of England defines itself therefore as separate from Rome, but at the same time as the Catholic Church in England. You see, the Reformation Fathers, if I may concentrate on them rather than on the political stuff, saw themselves as renovating the church, or as one Archbishop put it, the English church is like a garden full of weeds. It's the same garden with the weeds as it is after we've pulled up the weeds. It is now in its pristine beauty. Or as another Anglican bishop, distinguishing Anglicanism from Rome on the one hand and Protestantism on the other, said he talked about the meretricious gaudiness of Rome, the squalid sluttery of fanatic conventicles. Only the Church of England, he said, hath bedecked her as a seemly matron. So there was this idea of Englishness, nationalism, of being the Catholic Church, the Church of the English people. In fact, when I was a priest in the Church of England in London, it was made very clear to me that everybody had right of access to the Church of England because it is the state church. So what they taught, what the Church of England then said was, well, we've got the faith which comes from the apostles and the fathers of the church, and that's what we've recovered, and we've taken it and uncorrupted it, so to speak, because it has been made corrupt by Roman Catholic distortions, papal pretensions, and accretions, and yes, and even heresy, the Pope being the Antichrist. The Church of England is just that, the Church of England, the Church of the English people. It's Catholic, but reformed. It's the garden that's been weeded. It's been made tidy again. It's been renovated, if you like. The building's been renovated and brought back to the pristine purity of biblical Catholicism. The Roman Catholic Church in England, and particularly in the 19th century when Catholicism was liberated from censure by the state, was variously described as the Italian mission, or the Irish mission, for those of you of Irish descent here. In other words, intrusions into the pure Church of England by popish rivalry, which was essentially either on the one hand Italian, or on the other hand Irish, and what could be worse. Now, the challenge of the Church of England to be true to its Catholic roots was mounted by John Henry Newman, together with other great supporters of his at the time. And in the famous assize sermon by Keble in St Mary's Church, Oxford, they were very concerned that the Parliament at Westminster was reordering the bishoprics in Ireland. In other words, it was a challenge to what's called Erastianism. And Erastianism means the governance of the church by the state, the domination of church by state. Newman said, and his colleagues said, the state ought not to be governing the church should govern herself. And this was the trigger point, the flash point, so to speak, of what was called the Oxford movement in the Church of England. And that was a determined attempt, therefore, to go back behind the Reformation to recover England's essential Catholicism. Moreover, the formularies of worship of the Church of England, which was the Book of Common Prayer of 1662, together with the 39 Articles of Religion, Newman sought to interpret in such a way that they were consistent with the decrees of the Council of Trent, which would probably have come as a total surprise to the bishops of the Council of Trent, and certainly came as a surprise to the English bishops, who reprobated Newman for this, what they regarded, outrageous derogation from Anglican purity. The Oxford movement fathers objected to Erastianism. They found that much of what was taught in Anglicanism was un-Catholic, and as they would have it, not properly an interpretation of the Book of Common Prayer, and certainly un-Catholic by reference to the Fathers and the Bible. And Tract 90, the 90th tract of the Tractarian Fathers, certainly laid out this new account of Anglicanism, an account, I have to tell you, in which I was brought up myself. Let me give you an example of what you can do to the 39 Articles of Religion if you're so minded as per Newman. One of the articles says that the sacrament of the Lord was not to be picked up, carried about, gazed upon. That would seem on the face of it to be therefore opposing benediction, yes, procession to the Blessed Sacrament, yes, reservation. What did Newman say? Well, he said all that that article says is it was not ordained of Christ. In other words, Christ didn't order us to do it, but he didn't say we couldn't, and therefore it would be all right. Now, there were many other such examples. The Romish doctrine of transubstantiation is a fond thing vainly invented and repugnant to the pure word of God. Ah, yes, said Newman, but the doctrine of transubstantiation had not at that time when the article was written been defined by the Council of Trent. Therefore, it couldn't be that doctrine of transubstantiation that was being referred to, it must be another. And then he discovered that there was a party in the Catholic Church called the Romanenses, and they had a view of transubstantiation, which was that if you bit the host, it would bleed. And so that was what was being condemned in the 39 Articles of Religion, says Newman. Again, this would have come as quite a surprise to Cranmer. If you've read Cranmer as I have and his doctrine of the Eucharist, you'll see that Cranmer had in mind precisely what Trent was later to propose. The Oxford movement questioned the right of the Queen and the Parliament to be the authority when it came to interpreting the Bible. It's all very well to say, as the Anglicans said, that we only teach that which is agreeable to the pure word of God, but in a matter of controversy, who decides whose interpretation is correct? And the answer is, well, the Parliament decided, and hence the Book of Common Prayer, authorised by the Parliament, and having its origins in the so-called settlement, the Elizabethan settlement, in which Elizabeth brought together in one place High Church Anglicans, very Catholic-minded, traditional, evangelical Anglicans, they were really Puritans in those times, very Calvinistic, and a kind of a broad state church people which we would now identify with liberal Anglicanism. And finally, there was the question of the Pope, which the fathers of the Oxford movement increasingly began to see was to be found in the Scriptures, particularly in St. Matthew's Gospel. Added to that, there was a strong sense of ecumenism by the Anglo-Catholic fathers, the Oxford movement. And for them, ecumenism meant, how do we work out how to get back into union with Rome, from which we broke in the 16th century. So that movement went on from the middle of the 19th century right through until it ran out of steam in my time as an Anglican.